You can't just always think you're going to go big. If it's trying to start something or stop doing something, you got to start small and work your way up to wherever that goal is. Welcome, everybody, back to the Rally Cry podcast. My name is Angel.
My name is Tyler.
And you guys are here because you know we're not going to get dumber by this second. We're going to talk about well-being, our wellness, and make sure that we find the cure for it, because wellness does mean healing. But just because you're healing doesn't mean that there is a cure. So we're talking about failure today. And before we get into the episode, I want to say that whatever podcast platform you guys are on, make sure you follow us on that. If you are on YouTube, make sure you put post notifications on there, so every time when we post an episode, you guys will get notified. You'll be the first one and you won't miss a second. You can also follow us on Instagram at therallycry.podcast and also on TikTok. All that information will be down below in the description. So let's get into it.
Ladies
Failure
and gentlemen. Failure. What is failure to you?
I don't know. I think sometimes people fear failure, but is it? How can we fear something that we can't see? Because actually, the true definition of fear is something that is physically in front of you. So when you say, I'm scared to do this, I'm scared to do that, you're not scared. You're just anxious on the outcome of it. You're just worried about how things would go. And you're just like, oh, but what if this or what if that? And you're just worried about the outcome of something based on your imagination, right? And so if you really think about it, we think about being a failure on anything. If it's going to the gym, if it's waking up in the morning, if it's starting a business or anything like that, anything that's starting something to actually challenge yourself, right?
Right.
We think about all these outcomes, but I think that if you knew something was going to be successful, you would do it. Like if I had a t-shirt business and I know my products are going to sell, I'll just do it.
Yeah.
I know it's going to do it. Like I need a fortune teller to tell me like, yes, read the globe and your business is actually going to be successful, or you're going to be successful in this thing, and you're just rubbing the globe and stuff like that. And, that's not even realistic.
I'm glad that Angel brings that up, because it's kind of like how a decade ago, we did not think that YouTube was going to take off like this.
Oh,
So nobody was going to wake up and think like, I'm going to put a blog about how I brush my teeth, and I'm going to get over 10,000 views, and people are going to be like, you know what? I'm going to have to brush my teeth like that. I'm going to have to do like that, man.
That's a funny way of saying it.
Because you think about it, like, we see people, like, they're instructing you on how to, like, okay, if you do your exercise like this, if you want to make an outfit like this, put these colors together. If you want a cologne, get a specific 5 top smelling fragrances for men in spring. Like, they have all these guiding tutorial-like videos, and it's like, they're getting famous from it. So if they're not scared of just being who they are and what lets their daily lives pass by, then why should we hesitate? Like I said last video, why should we hesitate and add more pressure to what we already do?
Yeah, I think what happens too is that when it comes to us trying to go after something and why we're so hesitant, or when we procrastinate, another way of saying it, is that we think about, oh, maybe right now is not the perfect time. I got a lot going on. I'm just going to wait until this, dilutes from my life, and I wait for it to be the perfect timing. And we always be like, oh, I'm just waiting for the perfect time. And it's just like the perfect time is never an exact timing to when it feels right. It's about right now. It's just doing it right now. It's always about figuring it out right now. Like if you have that feeling, that passion towards something, especially if it's a dream, you want to go towards it when you have that urge feeling, right?
Right.
So a good example, right, is like, for example, yesterday I did a quick vlog, and it was just me putting a quick outfit together, right? So I was just like, oh, maybe I want to vlog real quick because I think this is a nice outfit. And that feeling, that urge to do it, that's when you want to execute.
Right. You don't want to let the opportunity stall, because that's the only thing that it is.
Right.
We justify and convince ourselves like, okay, like, I don't think this is going to work out. We're only stalling until we convince ourselves out of it, until we get our mind onto something else.
Exactly.
Now it's like we're entertaining this thought, and it's like we already toxically relieved ourselves of that stress, because at the end of the day, with anxiety, there is stress, and we're stressing ourselves out because of how nervous this is making us.
Exactly.
So if we're that nervous, why don't we do something about it rather than avoiding it? Why don't we ask ourselves questions? Because when there is no direction, that's why we have anxiety. It's like it's like going on a random drive. If you don't know where you're going, then of course you're gonna start panicking. You're like, I don't know where I'm going. Should I take this left? Should I take this right? You don't know where you're going. You don't know where you're navigating.
I love how you say that, because it also reminds me on the fact that a lot of times we feel like we should always have a sense of direction.
Yes.
Like we use our GPS all the time to know where we're going.
Right.
But sometimes getting lost finds you in other find you other journeys. It's part of the journey. Getting lost is part of the journey. So a lot of times when we're trying to be successful, we think that, I just need to know where I'm going. But actually being successful is when you don't know where you're going and you figure it out. Because there's so many options, right? I don't know if I could go left, right, straight. Like, there's so many options. And when you have so many options, you're able to figure out what's the best option for you. Because it could be different for someone else, but we're trying to figure out what is your journey, right?
And thing is, you bring up such a good point, because like last year, the concert, we barely know Boston, and we walked throughout a lot of places in Boston to know where we're at. And since we're there for a couple of days, we became familiar with areas, and we're like, you know what? Barely used the car today. Let's walk and find our way through. And then hours later, here we are walking from an area that we said we need to remember where this is at. And we found our way back to it. So we were able to trust our own memory. And once again, there is fear because we got all these tall buildings. Don't want to get lost, and it's like, I don't want to use GPS. Like, you need to learn these things. So being lost is okay, because when there is nothing left, all we have is hope, and we run off that hope. Don't depend on it, but we run off of that hope because it allows our creativity, our imagination. Like, we have to find a way, make something out of nothing.
It's a leap of faith.
Yeah. Thank you, Miles. It's a leap of faith. Like, that is such a good analogy to make, because with anything, like, look, we can be scared about going to a new job. And
all the time.
And especially if it's a position that you don't have experience in. Let's say you lied your way. And look, sometimes we got to do what we got to do. But when we get there, now we got to figure out, okay, how am I going to excel at the position that I said that I'm so capable of? And with the leap of faith, when in those positions, and I can say for myself, procrastinating, sometimes not condoning it, but I procrastinated my essays. And when under pressure, like, I put out my best work. So
I think sometimes it can work out for the better sometimes, because when you, I don't like saying procrastination. A lot of times it's just like taking a break from certain things, because we can honestly say some of us actually have certain things going on in our lives that might restrict us to give our full attention, to give our full potential on something, right? So there's such thing as doing it at a more comfortable setting, rather than saying, there's a right time, because there's no such thing as right time. It's just more that, are you going to be effective on this work, and after you start it, are you going to be able to finish it? Are you going to keep doing it consecutively enough, right? You had to commit to something that you started. You can't start something, not commit to it, because then what are you doing there? You're just playing with yourself. And it's not to say that going back and forth and just figuring things out is a way of art, right? Especially like if we're talking about social media and you're trying to be a content creator, you have these kinds of content that are maybe a little different from each other, but that's art. You don't want to take anything away from that. Eventually you're going to find your exact path and what audience you're reaching, right? And that's like kind of the point of being successful. I think what happens when we're trying to go in that path of being successful, we think on so many things that it can happen. Our imagination gets the best of us sometimes. Like, our imagination is what creates dreams. That's how we get creative. But sometimes our imaginations are sometimes that go against our dreams and procrastinate us from it, because we imagine the worst case scenario. And yes, that's a good thing, but we don't always want to dwell on it. We just want to be prepared for it. Just in case this happens, I'm ready for this, so that when it does happen, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't expect this. But hey, when you give yourself this thought, you're like, okay, I saw this coming. What can I do now?
Right. And the thing is, we all become obsessed with this idea of perfectionism. And with this idea of perfectionism, nothing is going to be okay unless it seems like it's perfect. And a lot of times, like, when we have ideas and we're brainstorming, like, we can have things on the whiteboard and we erase it because it's like, I don't like that. But instead of erasing it, keep it there. Like, have all your notes, like, have it organized, have all your ideas there together, so you see how your brain activity is going. Because if you quit, then you're not going to know what is going to be good and how you can branch off, and maybe even come back to it. As you mentioned, take a break and see what else you can add on to that. Because, with a lot of ways that imagination can create our dreams into reality, we have to be a little bit more respectful to those ideas and not be so like, I don't like that. Nah, that's not going to be good enough. Because when we say that it's not going to be good enough, we're attacking our identity and only hindering ourselves from being able to be more passive with our thoughts, be a lot more accepting with our thoughts.
Yeah, it's like when you're able to put all your thoughts in a bin, you can you randomly select it and be like, oh, actually, this was a good thought.
Yeah,
and it kind of like connects with a more bigger thought that is more like, oh, I really agree with this. And what I said previously kind of goes with this a little bit. So you don't want to like erase all your creativity. Like, a little bit of mess is art, So if you look at a canvas and you splat paint on it, you're like, okay, it looks messy. But when you keep adding more to it and you use your imagination, like, oh, it kind of looks like this, or you get this kind of feeling that it comes from it, right?
Yeah.
We talk about art all the time, and when it's in museums, we see how this art is like, it's interesting. Everybody has a certain perspective on it.
Right.
That even shows that life is all about perspective. So being successful is on perspective. So that kind of goes back to like how I heard Myron Golden. I actually talked about him previously, but he also said how a lot of people always see to believe something all the time. They want to see to believe the success. When you have to believe to see the success, I had to believe first in myself. And first to believe, it had to come from somewhere, right? Because a lot of the things that are created in this world was non-existent.
Right.
Like this Rodcaster that we're using right now was non-existent, but someone's imagination created this.
Yeah.
The TV, our phones, a couch. You know what I mean? Sure. I mean, anything that is invented is always by the imagination of someone, and they bring it into reality. So you have to believe it, then you see it in front of you. You can't see to believe, because then you're always going to expect to see something and be like, okay, that's going to happen, right? And that's what happens when people try to be successful. They had to be like, oh, I got to see that's going to be successful first before I even started. And that's what hinders us from even being successful in the first place.
Yeah, and think about how unorthodox it is. Like, people will laugh at you. Like, I just had this experience where, this guy, he had a hard time, and he was experiencing the worst circumstances ever. His phone is cloned, can't contact anybody because nobody's picking up, and he's trying to find his way home, and he can't contact anybody, and it's like the worst circumstances. So in those moments, you do have to be hopeful, but also, like, there's so many things that can go against us, but when we truly believe in ourselves and just put our foot down, because we can't quit just too early. We have to keep being persistent, as Angel was mentioning, and we can be consistent all that we want, but how can there be consistency if there's like so many lacking of attempts when we need to keep striving towards our goals?
Right. I think that we have the expectation that certain things should just keep going the way we want it to do. And when we say that we want it to go this way, we're only having attachment to what we want, the expectation. And so when we're having a bad day, let's say if you post something out there on social media and you expect it to have a certain amount of views or likes and stuff like that, I think that's something that a lot of people can resonate with. We don't get this thing, and we're just like, damn, like I should just give up. No one appreciates my work and stuff like that. But honestly, all the work that you do should be for you, not for anyone else. You should just be proud of your work, not anyone else be proud of your work.
Be proud of the work, for sure.
Be proud of the journey. Like just enjoy it. Like, just don't feel that you're pressured to do it. Like, when you change your intentions towards something, that's when things make it more meaningful. If your intentions is just to do something to make more money, then you're only expecting money then. But if you're doing it because you genuinely want to do it and you just want to vocalize something out there, like what we're trying to do, we're trying to vocalize mental health and how important it is and all these things, right? And we're talking about success is just a substance of certain things. Like, fear is something that restricts us, but fear is not even something that's existent. Fear is only something that we physically see. Like, if I see a shark coming at me, I'm physically experiencing fear. But when I'm scared to start a business, if I'm scared to start waking up in the morning, do my bed, go to the gym, and I want to get more fit, what am I scared of? I'm not scared. I'm just anxious.
Right.
And that anxiety, like we talked about managing stress and anxiety in our previous video, going back to this, everything that we go through in life is more of an anxiety thing. We're anxious on like what could happen, right? It's never a fear. So when we're able to understand that, it makes it a lot more clear what we're facing. It's never fear. It's just the anxiety of it. So it's just able to like have that leap of faith, like we said.
Yeah, and I like how you mentioned the word proud, because if we can't be proud of our own work, it basically resonates not only throughout our whole body, but it shows within our work. So if we can't be proud of our own work, how can people be proud of it? And if we're not proud of it, that means we're not even putting our 100% in our work. And if we're not putting 100% of our work, how can we call it work that we could put out? So now you're just putting out bad quality of work and only developing a bad image for yourself.
Yes.
And as bad as that sounds, and you may deny that, and it's okay, because we don't want to be looked at or told that we're not working hard enough. But at the same time, you can see it in the work, and that's why constructive criticism is okay. But if you can't even accept constructive criticism, you're not proud of your work, and you're also not ready to, take the next level of what it's going to take to get your work to this perfectionist idea that you would like to see.
I love that. I think a lot of the times we just think that we have to overcome fear.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of talking about how to overcome fear, it's more of like the fear of being successful sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, like, we're trying to overcome the fear to be successful, but sometimes people have the fear of being successful.
Yeah.
And to add on to is more saying, like, when people are successful, they understand that how much more responsibility is there to be successful. Like, for example, we're talking about a basketball player, LeBron James, as successful he is. Mm-hmm. You can only imagine how much weight he's carrying, right? Because people look up to him. They expect him to carry the weight of the game and understand certain dynamics to pass the ball and just know how to maneuver a certain way. But that goes for another thing. If you're like the first in your family to have the first bachelor's degree, the first one to graduate or anything like that, that puts so much pressure on you. Yeah. And since you're so successful, you feel like a lot of people had to rely on you and you're carrying all this weight. And it's just like, oh, I feel like I'm carrying all this responsibility, and then you might question yourself, oh, just why me? And it's just like, it's not necessarily to victimize yourself. Don't do it like that. It's just not why me. It's, if any, this is a good thing, but you don't want to make it seem like it's a bad thing to be successful. It's good to be successful, but you just got to understand, as simple as it is, with great power comes with great responsibility. So if you're going to have all this power, all this knowledge, and all this disciplinary actions, you need to understand there's power in that. And with power, you need to understand there's responsibility. And responsibility, there's discipline, as I said.
Yeah.
So it's just to say that you shouldn't knock yourself down when you're being successful. You just got to keep working harder. And know when things are going good for you, you need to make sure that you had to put in extra work. Yeah. So things are going good now. All right, I need to put even more work than what I was originally doing.
Yeah, and that goes to show, I just made this up in my head right now, real life time. Pressure is stressful, but that stress creates more advantages for us so that way we could advance. Because like you just mentioned, we can evolve, and when there is pressure and we have to work harder because, okay, we got some kind of success, now it's like, all right, this next upper echelon, how can I reach that? How can I get to this next goal so I could be up here? Because the same way, look, Jay-Z, for example, we're talking about wealthy people like LeBron James. Let's talk about Jay-Z. Started off as a drug dealer, became a rapper. Now he's a multi-millionaire, owning multiple businesses, investing into stocks, investing into all these other things. And through a lot of failures, and whether it's through the media, propaganda, or maybe even some bad choices in business, he had to learn through that. And same thing with Michael Jordan. He's made a success just by investing in himself and his sneakers. Mm-hmm. And he put everything on the line to either just get like a $15 million deal, or he basically runs his own business and can continue running into bigger businesses if he reached these certain accolades that seemed impossible at the moment. But because of that pressure, it allowed him to like, no, all right, there's a limit. I could reach past that limit. I know I could reach that limit. I just got to will myself through it.
And I'm pretty sure he had some ups and downs. Like,
of course.
If we're talking about how much effort and work he put towards his sneakers, right? There's some sneakers that I don't like, but there's other people that might like them.
Yeah, fours are ugly.
I don't know about that, but let's not get into that.
Okay, I'll say fives take the cake for me.
All right.
But look, hey,
but you see,
Michael Jordan though, he just didn't set the bar low for himself, and that's the thing when it comes to fear of success. We set the bar low because we're so challenged by what we have to do is like, I'm so scared about what if I can't do this. But if we're asking ourselves all these questions, why don't we answer them? Why don't we answer these questions? What if this? What if that? Like, set a narrative, set a direction, right? So if we set a direction and we answer these questions and we kind of narrow down, okay, what exactly do we want from this? Okay, what is that could be possibly stopping us? Okay, what is it that could be scaring us from thinking that we can't do this? Is it that you feel like you won't have support? Is it you feel like you're not competent enough to do that, so you may need to learn more? Like, what steps do you need to take in order to make yourself feel comfortable enough to be proud in what you want to do?
Yeah, it's just setting yourself up for success. Like, you had to set your environment, if it's with the people, if it's how you set yourself up to the morning. Like, I got into the habit of always doing my bed in the morning. That's, like, the most smallest things. Like, you being successful as a person is not necessarily the big things. It's just the small things. Like, I'm successful enough to go to bed early. I'm successful to do my bed when I wake up in the morning. I'm successful to go to the gym at a certain time. I'm successful to, max out so that when I go to the gym, I make sure that I reached my peak, so I'm already tired out. These muscles are good, you know what I mean? So I could go to the next day and work on another area on my body, right? That is what being successful is. Successful is not just having a big business and all these things that we think that is being successful. It's just the small things too. But you had to have the small successes in your life to have the big successes come. Like, if you can't do the small things, how are you going to get to the big things? It's like, for example, like, if you're going to be a janitor and you don't want to even do these kinds of work, to take out the trash and all these things, how would you be able to do like CEO kind of work?
Yeah.
You can't even take out the trash. Like, regardless of how degrading you may feel, you got to do what you got to do. Right now, I just got to do it. I don't want to do it right now, but I got to do it because it's something. I'm going to just foreshadow it. I'm not going to say where it's coming from. Don't spoil it, Tyler. Don't spoil it for the people, just in case. But I know you know where I'm.
Okay.
We know what this is coming from, but I just don't want to spoil nothing. But
look, we're aligned.
This is relevant. This is relevant. So listen, a lot of times I heard this quote, and it was great. I don't really appreciate the things that I do, but I know I got to be the one to do it. I know we know where that's coming from, but that's a great quote onto being successful. Like, I don't want to do this, but I know this is what I got to do, and I'm the one that got to do it. Because a lot of times we see a vision that other people don't see. I got my own vision, other people might not see. I'll be grateful enough that someone else sees my vision, and like me and you, Tyler, we got this thing going on, and we're working towards the same thing. We're looking in the same direction. Right. But the fact that sometimes people don't see that, and you got to do what you got to do to it.
And sometimes those comments are not going to be pretty to hear, but like at the end of the day, like, what is it going to do for you? Like, you're going to let somebody's response to you or maybe comment about you stop what you do and stop your dreams. Yes. Like, who are they to ever have some kind of power over what you want to do? Yes. Because if there's one thing for sure, and how I learned to overcome a lot of moments where anxiety was crippling me and I was literally shooketh in my boots, it's time to nut up or shut up. Like, that's all it is. Nut up and shut up.
For real.
Swallow your pride, take a deep breath, and just take that first step. All it is a first step. If you take that first step, everything else doesn't matter after that, because you're just going to be glad that you did it. And a lot of times, like, when I was nervous about a test, or if I was nervous about how I'm going to do in basketball because I'm just coming off of an injury, I was nervous about how I was going to perform, but I'm glad I showed up. Because whether I did good or bad, it was just I learned, but I'm just glad I showed up. Because if I didn't, now here I am just wallowing like, damn, I should have went. Because let's say I made plans to go play basketball with other people. They had fun and a lot of things happened. And whether or not I had a good game or not, the fact that I got to experience that, I followed it through and I didn't go back on my word. Mm-hmm. Those are all important things. And, I want to say this, because from the healthline.com, this is a great source. And if anybody needs help with their wellness and trying to understand or find ways to get better, healthline.com or Very Well Mind are some great websites to go through. And the fear of failure has to do with beating yourself up when you think you've bombed out. Fear of success is more about anticipating how other people will react to your triumph. Mm-hmm. And thanks to Janet Brito, who medically reviewed that is an inspiring quote that I'm going to keep in my notes, because
that's so true.
I didn't know there's a difference, but the similarities in both, like they align a lot more, but that difference between them goes to show how far off, whether it's in the beginning or the very end, that we're just so caught up about. Because in the beginning, we're worried about like the end, but in the end, we're worried about like, damn, what do I got to do? Like, I did all this to get there, but was it worth it? Did I do it? Because we don't want to quit when we're just about to get there. Mm-hmm.
Dreams is just a sense of direction. We have this imagination that it should come out this way.
Right.
But it's just saying like, my dream is this way. This is how it's going to come out. These are the kind of people I should be around. This is the kind of direction I should be going. So when you have a dream or a passion, it's more like, okay, I know it's going this way. It's definitely not going the other way. So it's just directing you in a certain pathway. So let's not always think that when we have this dream or passion, it should go exactly like this. Because mind you, things happen bigger than we could ever imagine. Like we only have a substance of how our dreams go. Mm-hmm. And when we keep going towards that passion, we end up going through a lot of surprises. Like, oh my God, like this happened. And that's what makes the journey so exciting, because things happen bigger than we could ever imagine. Law of attraction.
And boy, man, I tell you, this lady is the first lady in my life because
you're funny.
like Loa is the worldly powers basically speaking to after your dreams, because after your dreams you see your passion, you know, all right, now my dreams are speaking to me. I gotta do something. I gotta create this. I gotta give life to this. And when the world just starts speaking to you and you run into people that have the same passion as you, or you run into things that may benefit you and may, you know, put you in a better position, like networking, or let's say you find something that's like, you know what, this light is gonna go great in my for my setup for the podcast, getting the light, or getting these nice lights here, or getting these shades, or getting the broadcaster. Noise. So I think a lot of times fear of failure does hinder us, but we can't ruminate forever. We can't keep procrastinating. Like, something has to be done. And do you want to keep wallowing and not be satisfied? Do you not want to satisfy that hunger? Because that's what satisfaction is. We got a hunger for something. A lot of times it's food. We think about satisfy. Like, I need to satisfy this. I got a craving. I need to satisfy this. So this hunger that we have to change, to want these things, rather than just say it and be like, oh, yeah, I don't have it. Be hungry. Be like, okay, what do I need to do? Okay, 10 push-ups. All right, I can do 10 push-ups today, 20 push-ups tomorrow. Get a better body, little by little.
Yep. You got to start small. You can't just always think you're going to go big. If it's trying to start something or stop doing something, you had to start small and work your way up to wherever that goal is. Yeah. So I love that. And when you were saying, like, you know, having that hunger, just to end it, this episode, I'll say this, right? You want to make sure that you're a hunter, not a scavenger, because the difference between them is that a scavenger looks at his environment and just settles for what he got. But a hunter goes outside of his comfort zone and hunts for more because of that hunger that he has for himself. So make sure that you're a hunter, not a scavenger, because scavenger settles for less.
Yeah, they pick up the pieces that are left over.
Yep.
The hunter, they have to do everything from scratch. So, like, imagine surviving in the wild.
Yeah.
Imagine being in nature and you have to make your own fire. That's
strength.
True Minecraft skills.
Yes. I like that. That also reminds me, if you guys want to read this book, it's a great book. I read it. It's a quick read. If you guys are trying to start into getting into reading, this would be a great book to get into, and it's just a mindset. And it's called Who Moved My Cheese? Just searched up that book. That book is a great book. It's just a good perspective if it's relationship, businesses, a whole bunch of things. It just works in a good, diverse way. So if you guys want to read that book, Who Moved My Cheese? That's a great book. Just want to let you guys know that we appreciate you. Like, this journey has been so great talking to you guys and talk about wellness. And as we do research and we figure things out to let you guys know on these things that we should follow by, we learn ourselves. So we just appreciate you guys coming on this journey and growing with us and learning and just trying to work on your well-being, because that's really all it's about. Like, we're in this generation, we're just trying to do better in the world, like trying to destroy the stigma of mental health and know that mental health is important. We shouldn't look at it as like, oh, there's something wrong with me. It's just that I just want to do better and get out of my comfort zone so that I can be a better person. That's the whole point, being better for myself so that I can also be better for the people that are around me. So make sure you guys follow us on your favorite podcast platform, on YouTube as well, and you can follow us on our Instagram, therallycry.podcast, and anytime when we post, you will get notified if you have post notifications on. So is there anything you want to say, Tyler, before we close this out?
Man, all I could say, stay alive, be glad.
Stay alive.
Cross your eyes, dot your legs, do what you got to do. And every day is another opportunity.
Absolutely.
Be thankful, be grateful, praise God. And you never know what could come knocking on your door. Just stay diligent and remain vigilant as you try to aspire towards those goals. Never let those desires go unsatisfied.
Yes. We love you guys. Until next time, y'all be easy.
Y'all be breezy.
Easy.